Hi everyone, welcome back to Steve's Garage. Today I'll be changing the transmission fluid on an SPA XC90. The specific car I'm working on is a 2020 with the T6, but this procedure is the same for basically any SPA Volvos and very similar to the P3s. I'll be doing a 2-round drain and fill procedure today. If your fluid doesn't look too bad, you could probably just get away with one, and if it's excessively dirty, you could do more than 2. It's kind of up to you, but being that I know the mileage and service history of this vehicle, I'm totally comfortable with doing just 2 rounds. Keep in mind that you never want to flush a transmission. Drain and fill procedures are all you ever want to do, and you just want to keep doing it until the fluid is clean enough for your liking. Despite what anyone says or what you might read, this fluid is not lifetime. The Volvo manual says it should be changed every 50,000 miles, but only on vehicles that tow. Realistically, everyone should be changing the fluid around 50,000 miles as it will only extend the life of your transmission. There are a couple other fluid services that can also be done at this time, and I have videos for all of them, so be sure to check those out. And before we get started on the real work, I'm going to cover all the tools you'll need to get the job done. You'll need a 17mm hex bit, T55, T40, T30, and T25 Torx, a flathead screwdriver, pick tool, ratchet and extensions. A torque wrench isn't a bad idea, but it's certainly not mandatory. I'll be replacing the drain plug along with the O-ring for that and the O-ring for the dipstick drain plug. I'll be draining the fluid into a large pitcher as opposed to a drain pan so I can easily see how much I was taking out and more importantly get a good idea of the color of the fluid. I'll also be using a really long funnel to help me reach the fill hole on top of the transmission. I've got an OBD2 dongle here because you should have a way to measure the temperature of the transmission fluid. I've seen some people use infrared thermometers to measure the temperature of the case, which could work, but I'm not sure how accurate that is for the fluid inside. I actually have a dice cable and a laptop that I'm running VDASH on, so I'll be using that today. VDASH is a software that has some functionality for free and has really come in handy as a Volvo owner, especially on the SPA chassis cars. They're not sponsoring the video or anything, I just really like their software for my at-home needs. Last but not least, I didn't show the transmission fluid itself, but you can pick up 4 liters if you're planning on a single drain and fill, or 8 liters if you want to do 2 rounds because of high mileage or an unknown history of the car. You could probably get away with doing this with the car on the ground, but because I was doing other 50,000 mile services at the same time, I opted to lift the whole thing. Just make sure it's still level once you get it in the air. I like to place the jack stands right where the suspension components bolt to the subframe. For me, it's a good flat area so I know the stands are secure, but also out of my way enough so I can actually get under the car and do the work I need to do. With all that being said, we're actually starting under the hood today because you want to make sure that you can actually access the transmission fill plug. The last thing you want to do is drain the transmission fluid out and not be able to get more in. Start by removing the airbox. There are 6 T25 Torx screws holding the lid on. Once you remove those, you can loosen the clamp and undo the MAF plug. There's a little clip that holds the wire to the airbox. You can remove that too. Mine came right off, but you might need to use a screwdriver to pop it off. Once the top lid and filter are out of the way, there are 2 rubber grommets holding the bottom portion in place, so just grab a hold of it, pull up, and it'll be out of your way. You should be able to spot a large Torx head bolt. That's your fill plug, and you'll need a T55 to remove it. All we're doing right now is making sure it actually comes out, so once you've confirmed that, just go ahead and put it back into place and we can get under the car. Using a T30 Torx, you can remove the 10 bolts that are holding the belly pan or splash shield on. There are 2 clips in the middle of the front and the rear of the shield, but I can't show you those today because my car didn't have them. You'll see them if they're there, they're right in line with the bolts. With the splash shield out of the way, you can now locate the transmission drain plug. Remember, the transmission is on the left side of the car and the drain plug is right next to the lower transmission mount. Using a T40 Torx, you can remove the smaller inner drain plug and make sure you have your drain pan ready because this is the start of draining the fluid out. Once that slows to a drip, it's time to use the 17mm hex to remove the larger dipstick drain plug. You can see the fluid is sort of brown in color, which is okay. It's certainly not a dark black, but it's also not red, brand new transmission fluid. So you can see the importance of changing the fluid even if your car isn't used for towing. Mine has never towed a trailer, and it clearly needs to be changed. If you're only doing a single drain and fill today, you can change the O-rings on the plugs now. If you're doing 2 rounds, there's really no need to change because we'll be putting them back in and taking them back out. Since I'll be doing 2 rounds, I'll be covering the O-ring swap later, but feel free to use the chapters to skip ahead if needed. Once the fluid slows to a drip again, you can reinstall both drain plugs, and since I'll be draining the fluid again, I just snugged them up for now. There's no reason to bust out the torque wrench because they're just coming back out in a couple minutes. Moving back up to the engine bay, remove your fill plug, put your funnel in, and pour in 4 liters of fluid. This will technically be overfilled, but if you're doing a 2 round, it's going to be drained out again, and if this is your only round, you're going to set the level. Again, that will be covered a little bit in the future. Skip ahead if needed. As for the funnel I'm using today, it's actually from the Funnel Buddy. It's this great little product that holds a variety of funnels, has a drain bottle, attaches to your wall, and comes with a tall funnel that is perfect for this job. This isn't an ad, it's just me sharing a product that I really like. It was actually a gift from my dad because he liked his so much. So if you're interested in grabbing one for yourself or as a gift for somebody else, go ahead and check out my Amazon affiliate link in the description. You won't regret it. Once the fluid is in, reinstall your fill plug, and you should plug your MAF back in and stick a filter over the end of the filter box. The car will run without them. I didn't get a check engine light or anything, but it could pop up having the MAF unplugged, and it's possible to suck something through your intake without the filter there. Once that's installed, head inside the car, start it up, and start shifting through gears. Keep your foot on the brake, and you want to spend a second or two in each gear: park, neutral, reverse, drive. You may or may not be able to put it into sport mode or select a shift and cycle through some of the drive gears individually, but I didn't do that. The car will be beeping like crazy, just ignore it and keep cycling those gears. You want to get all that new fluid worked around inside the transmission. Once you're done with that, shut the car back off. You can go back under the hood and undo everything, or just get under the car and start draining the transmission fluid. Just like the first time, we're going to start with that inner drain plug, let the fluid drain out, let it slow to a drip, and then pull that larger drain plug. As you can see here, the fluid is significantly more red than the previous drain, but it's not like we're draining out brand new transmission fluid, which is good. It means more of that old fluid has mixed in with the new stuff, and we're pulling more of that old fluid out. And while that finishes draining, we can go swap the O-rings on both the drain plugs. This certainly isn't rocket science, especially if you're doing this whole fluid service, but I wanted to cover it anyway. The large O-ring goes on the funnel plug, and the small one goes on the smaller drain plug. I'm actually replacing the smaller drain plug today because I find changing out little items like this is cheap insurance for a car that does see snow. You never know what might strip out or what might give you trouble, so I like to have new hardware on hand. Heading back onto the car, the fluid is most likely finished draining, so if it is, go ahead and install that larger dipstick drain plug. That gets torqued to 35 Newton meters or about 25.8 foot-pounds. You can definitely get away without a torque wrench for this, but I like to be thorough. As far as the small drain plug goes, you'll actually notice that I installed the new one, and I should not have done this. I should have installed the old one because we'll be removing it one last time to set the proper fill level. That being said, I didn't have any issues with it leaking, but I did want to point that out. With the drain plugs installed, head back up to the engine bay and pour in 4 liters of transmission fluid. Once that's complete, you can tighten down the fill plug and install your MAF and Airbox, for real this time. We are done in the engine bay, so everything can be the final procedure here. One thing to note about the lower half of the Airbox, the rectangular area on the front of the box slots over a corresponding piece coming from the grill. So if you slide that on properly, the 2 mounting posts will clip in perfectly. Now you can get back in the car, start it up, and keep in mind that this is running for the entire procedure, so make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. Start cycling through the gears just like we did last time, and while I did this, I connected my scan tool to read the transmission fluid temperature. Again, I'll be using VDASH, and it's not an ad, it's just a free software that I could run on an old laptop with the dice cable that I already had for my P3 Volvo. If you're using VDASH as well, once you're connected and you've selected your vehicle, go to Quick Service, and that will display temps for the engine, engine oil, show the engine oil level, as well as a few other stats. To the right of that, under brakes and transmission, you'll see gear temp, which is what we're after. You want to set the level when the temperature is between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius. Because I'm filming, I waited for the temp to hit about 52 before getting myself and the camera equipment back under the car, but if I wasn't filming, I'd probably wait for the temperature to hit 55. So get back under the car and remove that inner drain plug for the final time. If you remember, that larger drain plug has the vertical straw on it, and that's how the correct level is set. Any fluid above the straw drains out, and it slows to a drip once it's even with the top of the straw, which is the correct level. No transmission dipstick needed here. Once the fluid has reached a slow drip, you can install your new drain plug, and its torque spec is 8 Newton meters, and I don't even have a torque wrench low enough to do that. So while I like to be thorough, just snug it up, and you'll be alright. At this point, the job is complete, so go ahead and turn your car off and start buttoning everything else up. Overall, I highly recommend doing this service, especially if you're planning to own this car for the long haul. Yes, it's a bit of a process, especially if you're doing the 2-part drain and fill, but it's definitely worth it because, again, transmission fluid is not a lifetime fluid. If you're all done today, you can reinstall the splash shield, let the car down, and take it for a test drive. But there are other driveline services that can be done for the all-wheel drive system. I have videos for everything that should be done at 50,000 miles, including an oil change, so I encourage you to check those out while you've got the car up in the air. If you have any questions about this service, please leave a comment as I try to help out everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future XC90 tutorials. Thanks so much for watching.